reference Pep, just because Pep is quite famous for this, but for me the interesting aspect of this is its application for self-defense, because for me this is something that beginners do instinctually. They don't have these conceptions. They haven't been taught to think in terms of orthodox stance, maintaining an orthodox stance. To somebody who's not been taught that, and that's a simplified version. It's like at school we teach maths. It's an isolation. We take something that occurs naturally, in commerce, in baking, in architecture. We take that and we pull it out and we isolate and we teach it. But it's too simple, because then we need to build it back into reality. Beginner has certain instincts about movement, gleaned from natural movement. They don't say this is a stance. They're quite happy to transition between stances, to move in what might be termed as unusual or unorthodox ways, to achieve what it is they desire. And this is something that in things like boxing we unlearn, and then if we're really good we relearn. And for me, you can jump this and tap into a lot of that at the start, if you're willing to. If you're willing to accept that you don't have a rule book for how you teach this or that there are people who will do things in this way and people who do things in that way, and that you can nurture them and bring them forward and learn to enhance what they instinctively do with things that you can help them to do better. So that's why this is of interest to me. Willie Pep. The significant thing about Willie Pep was that he didn't think about the stance as something rigid. He was constantly transitioning, and we see this with lots of elite boxers, Terence Crawford, Andre Ward, a lot of the old golden era type guys. This sense of a constant transition, which enabled him to move in pretty much any dimension, because he was never set in any way towards any particular stance. So he could move wherever he needed to move, to evade, to attack, based upon that simple fluid transition of body towards or away from target. And he did this by just simply, and the way to do this is just to play with it, is to constantly play with this sense of there being no side, no guard, that my movement is just about where I want to get to. And I can do this really quite easily once you get used to it. And switching between different stances, different positions becomes really quite fluid. And this gives me so much in terms of self-defense application, which doesn't occur in this backwards forwards conventional fighting dynamic. It's up close and it's on you, and it's most likely to be multiple, in which case circular movement becomes much more important. I can't move forwards and backwards particularly well. Maybe I'm grabbed, the distance isn't there. What I can do is I can move side to side, circular movements. I can engage a person here, I can engage a person there, I can engage on this dynamic, and I can engage on this dynamic. And I can draw power from that movement. So as I drop away at one side, I can pull across the power of that. In a similar way to the falling step, the Dempsey falling step. I pull across when I transition stance or transition my feet. I pull across the power of that twist, of that dropping step. So I'm getting this fluidity, this ability to punch and evade in a much broader sense than traditional stances. I'm also finding ways to draw power, particularly in short spaces. I'm finding ways to draw power quite effectively in that close quarter kind of dynamic where I can move probably in a more dynamic way than the people who I might be up against. So Willie Pep and his dynamic stances are something that give me a closer synthesis with what comes natural to me. They give me a greater dynamic movement in both attack and defence, and they give me ways of recruiting power when I have limited movement, because every time I switch those sides up, I'm taking a twist and I'm often taking a drop that I can use then to recruit power from in small spaces. And it's easy to practice. All you do is you just start to play around. That's what I do all the time now. I play around. I need to be able to strike in all of these dimensions, to defend in all of these dimensions, because group attack is the most likely scenario in self-defense, particularly for a man. I won't say a young man because it's been a while since I was a young man, but yeah, I'm just really feeling this sense of I'm liberated from any notion of stance, rigid stance that's separating me from the movements I need to achieve to either evade or attack. Boom. There you go.